Uh-oh, Ronaldo and Messi will not feature in the quarterfinals for the first time since the mid-2000s or something like that. Thankfully, though, guys, there's a world of football beyond Messi and Ronaldo that we can all enjoy, and it's not like they're retired yet. You can still watch them play. So let's show some love to the rest of the football world now by going over some of the great moments and confusing moments from this week in the Champions League. And hey, one of them was even provided by one of those guys. I'm a guy named Adrian, by the way. Hello, and make sure you subscribe for my prediction prowess. I am 0 for 4 so far in the round of 16. I am a god in the prediction game. No, but seriously, like I said on Twitter, predictions are done for you guys. I'm happy to just preview the tie. But if I don't add a prediction, I'll get coward slander from you guys in the comments, so I drop a prediction in there at the end. Sometimes I forget to even film it, so I have to go back while I'm editing. Also, having unpredictable football this season has been amazing. I mean, long may it continue. I hope that this trend of football being completely unpredictable continues, and that we all look stupid. We all being YouTubers and people who are making predictions. Anyways, let's continue on to the football. Juve have been eliminated once again, and based off of their season thus far, it's not a massive surprise, is it? And then you add in the fight that Porto have shown in the Champions League this season, and it's even less surprising. I think the manner in which they went out was sort of the only surprising part here. This Juve side is poor. There's no getting around it. The only players who ever looked great for them in this match going forward was their right back, Cuadrado, probably their player of the season so far, and of course, Chiesa, who was perhaps their most dangerous attacker, playing down that left flank. Pirlo has moved away from the back three, sort of, and when Juve attack, which is almost always down the right via Cuadrado, Sandro drops to make a sort of back three, and Cuadrado plays in cross after cross behind the defenders, often to nobody. And Conceição clearly picked up on this right away, and it made it relatively easy for Porto on the night when it came to defending. They had to stay organized, yes. Pepe and Mbemba had to be diligent and focused. Pepe in general was incredible on the night for Porto. But Juve didn't really offer much that the defenders couldn't deal with, and on the odd times that they did, Marchesin was fantastic. But again, it's a credit to Porto and how they were set up defensively, which is one of the reasons why Juve struggled. Now, Mehdi Taremi won a penalty for Porto as he put himself between the ball and Demiral's attempt at clearing the ball, a clever one indeed, from a guy who was not so clever later on. But hey, Sergio Oliveira stepped up to the spot and converted well, as he often does. 1-0 Porto, and Juve were in need of at least 2 goals to force extra time. And just minutes into the second half, they were on their way when Ronaldo set up Chiesa, and the young Italian slapped it into the top corner beautifully. And this is where it gets a bit funny. So, Mehdi Taremi got himself a yellow for a foul. And then just 2 minutes later, as he received the ball, the referee blew the whistle. And then Taremi kicked it away. Now, of course, kicking the ball away after the referee blows the whistle is a yellow card. But it's another one of those cautions that is rarely given by referees, similarly to diving. Depending on the referee, you may get a yellow or you may not. It's also dependent on how far after the whistle you kick the ball. Now, the actual time between the ref blowing the whistle and the kick of the ball is interesting, and I can't actually play the audio for you, let alone show the video, of course, so I have recreated it with sound effects and with correct timing for you to hear for yourself. So, there was about 1-ish seconds between the referee blowing the whistle and Taremi kicking the ball away. Personally, while I understand it's a yellow by the letter of the law, it's an unfortunate yellow, but it's also, I guess, kind of stupid of Taremi to do that just moments after he had received his first yellow. I mean, the commentators on the feed I was listening to on DAZN were like, oh, what is he thinking? That's madness to do something like that after you've just received a yellow. But it's like, I mean, he received the ball, he chested it and booted it all within like 1-ish seconds. It's not like the whistle blew, 3 seconds went by, and then he rifled it down the field in anger, you know? I mean, thankfully it didn't matter in the end. So, Juve with a man up after 50-something minutes, surely they go ahead and get it done. Well, they got the goal they needed to enforce extra time via Chiesa, again, his second of the match, but in extra time, another blunder. Porto didn't score from open play again, but Juve didn't cover themselves in glory at all, with this sad excuse of a wall. Ronaldo turning away, the wall breaking with cracks all over the place to shoot through, and at the end of it, I found Szczesny's wrist to be a little weak when it came to making the save. A little slow to get across, but I don't know, maybe I'm being harsh. Rabiot pulled one back for Juve, but that wasn't enough. Porto's 2 away goals put them through, and they deserved it. They absolutely deserved to go through. Tons of credit must go to Sergio Conceição, who isn't exactly the next, tactical mastermind by any stretch, but he organizes his teams extremely well, and they run themselves into the ground for him. They'll run through brick walls or whatever other cliches you want to say. He's a master of instilling his own fighting mentality into his players. They defended brilliantly, they fought well, they took the opportunities that were afforded to them, and this Juve side offered very little, so only one outcome makes sense. Porto are through, deservingly so. Oh, by the way, Grujic with the Busquets impression, hilarious. Dortmund versus Sevilla was another Haaland show. This man really is gunning for Ronaldo's title of being Mr. Champions League, isn't he? Well, to be fair, that would require him winning quite a few trophies as well, but when it comes to showing up and scoring regularly, he's absolutely doing it. But anyway, Sevilla will have been boosted by having both Acuna and Ocampos in their lineup, but having conceded 3 goals at home ensured that they always had a hill to climb. Add in the aforementioned Haaland and his elite levels, and things got all the more difficult for them. A great run by Marco Reus saw the German cut back to Haaland, and he slipped it through the legs of the defender to make it 1-0. And here's an aside from me, but one of the things that I really do love about Haaland is how so often when he scores, it's not all about him as he's celebrating. He always gives his teammates the plaudits they deserve, let alone how hard he celebrates when his teammates score, and he has nothing to do with the goal. He has an obsession with scoring, but a healthy one. He's not in competition with his teammates. He'll celebrate often harder than they do for their goals, and he'll put the spotlight on his teammates for an assist. It's really refreshing to see a guy who has that elite, tireless, what are we doing? Are we just making these calls to avoid teams complaining? It's almost like they're making calls as if they're in a courtroom, in the court of law. And they'll have a team come at them with the rule book saying, well, in rule book 10.4, in regard to the calling of a penalty and the build up to the goal, blah, 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 blah. It's as if they are legally covering their asses and making these calls when I think it's totally reasonable. Any reasonable person would look at this situation and say, I didn't call the original penalty because I didn't think it was a penalty. The team that was fouled in the box later scored. It is safe to ignore the penalty claim. But of course, he's not going to do that because Sevilla is going to say, well, we might have saved the penalty, So, I mean, look, if Sevilla had gone in the other direction and scored, upon reviewing the Haaland incident, the referee decided that he made a clear and obvious error, then okay, fine, cancel the goal for Sevilla if that was the case, as harsh as that would be, and bring it back for Dortmund's penalty because it's a clear and obvious error. But whatever. Enough of that, I don't want to talk about it anymore. What followed was a bit funny. Haaland had his penalty saved initially because Bono was off of his line to make that save. Then they had the retake. Haaland scored. He celebrated in the face of Bono because Bono celebrated in his face when he saved the penalty initially. Madness. Anyways, Sevilla did show some fight and pulled 2 goals back, but they would have needed 1 more to force extra time. Dortmund make it through, perhaps somewhat surprisingly, but that Sevilla slump in form came at the absolute worst time for them in this competition. Like I've said, prior to the matchup that they had against Borussia Dortmund, they were on a 9-match winning streak with 7 consecutive clean sheets, and then they collapse. Bad time to do so. But hey man, shout out Dortmund. A really difficult season for them domestically, but perhaps they can have a nice run in the Champions League to make up for it, bring some much needed hope for next season under Marco Rose. With a player like Haaland, who has become the youngest player to score 20 Champions League goals with his second of the night against Sevilla, that penalty, there's always a good chance they can go far. If the draw is kind to them, who knows? Liverpool versus Leipzig, and we finally got to see Thiago with his intended purpose, something that we've been robbed of for far too long this season due to the injuries. Both to him, he had some injuries too, and Klopp had to contend with the injuries at the back. Fabinho was playing in the 6th position. He was excellent on the day, by the way. Thiago had a bit more freedom to roam. He was untethered, you could say. Liverpool, they dominated the first half, I found, but were poor when it came to their finishing. They had some great attempts stopped by Gulashi, but man, that comedy show from Salah and Mane in the first half. My God, it was woeful finishing from them on that moment. And then Jota later, right at the end of the half, putting it into the side netting. Terrible from him as well. I mean, he might be a little bit rusty. He's been injured for a while. But at least they looked solid when it came to defense thanks to Nat Phillips. I mean, Alisson had a good save early on Olmo as well, which, by the way, I was really surprised to not see Sorloth out there from the outset for Leipzig. When he did come on in the second half, he had a header go off of the crossbar. And just as they were finding their feet, Jota fed Salah, who cut inside and rolled the ball past Gulashi to get that away goal and essentially kill the tie. Cut inside on Upamecano far too easily for my liking, but the finish was great, right into that bottom corner. And not long after, Origi set up Mane. Same scores from the first leg. Job done, my friend. Honestly, I expected a lot more from RB Leipzig. They're a big flop in my opinion, and to not score a single goal is a little bit surprising to me. But hey, credit to Liverpool, who absolutely needed this kind of victory after their domestic form that has been haunting them. I mean, all it took was playing a home game away from Anfield, you know? PSG versus Barcelona. Dreams of a remontada were in the chat of this watch along. And while I wasn't quite ready to say, hey, dream on, you're delusional, because anything can happen in football, it didn't seem all that likely, did it? Even with Koeman forging ahead with this improved shape, this 3-4-3 that suits the players that he has at his disposal. A lot of players that he has at the club are injured at the moment. I mean, even with Messi in form, etc., it felt like a long shot, didn't it? But early doors, it felt as if it was working for Barcelona. Dest was finding a ton of joy down that right flank as he was sort of relieved of his defensive duties, playing as a right wing back and absolutely torching Kurzawa time and time again. Dembele looked good at everything but his final ball and his finishing. Messi seemed up for it. Pedri was doing well in the midfield. Busquets was perhaps Barcelona's best player out there. Penalty to PSG. Out of nowhere. And it was pretty much dead from then on. But it was that man once again. Clément Lenglet had a bit of an unfortunate mistake. I mean, he stepped on the Achilles of Icardi. It was converted and essentially ended the tie. 4 goals from Mbappé against Barcelona in 2 matches. I mean, there was some hope when Messi later lashed a thunderbolt into the top corner from miles out. A venomous, swerving strike. And there was even more optimism for, at the very least, an entertaining second half when Barcelona were awarded a penalty right at the end of the first half, but Messi absolutely blew it, man. Like I was saying during the watch-along, one of my coaches when I was like 13, or something like that, was a Dutch guy named Paul, and I found his Transfermarkt page. I did it. I mean, he had 1 cap for the national side at the U18 level, and he played as a keeper, most notably for VVV Venlo from 1978 to 1980. Not sure he ever played for the first team, but whatever, we're getting beyond the point. I was just excited that I found him on Transfermarkt. When we would practice penalties, he would always tell us that the area of the goal that Messi just so happened to hit it in is the best place to put it if you want to give the keeper the absolute best chance at saving it. You'd be better off just shooting it straight down the middle. Do not put the ball there, he would always tell us. So every time I see players putting the ball there, I think of good old Paul and get his voice in my head. Anyway, yeah, Messi had his penalty saved. Poor penalty from him. And in the second half, PSG ensured that both Verratti and Draxler would sit back more to turn their shape into a 4-5-1 in defense. They took off Kurzawa for Diallo, who was excellent, and essentially they snuffed the game out from there. Not too much to talk about in the second half beyond some mistakes from Dembele in the attack, some great defending from Marquinhos and PSG. PSG threw 5-2 on aggregate, and well deserved. Alright guys, that wraps things up for this week. We of course will have another video for you tomorrow that you won't want to miss, as I am discussing a certain German manager. Thanks so much for all of the support this week, guys. I appreciate it so much. And to all who come to the streams, donate. Man, that blows my mind every time, to support the channel. Join to become members of the channel. You really are helping making my dream of doing this come true. So thank you once again. I'm Adrian. This is Rabona TV, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.